So it is my absolute pleasure now to introduce our next speaker, Carolina Morgado. Carolina is the CEO of Rewilding Chile, an organization that has been at the forefront of the transformational rewilding efforts in Chile. Today, she will take us on a journey through the remarkable work of Rewilding Chile, its roots in the visionary legacy of Tompkins Conservation, and their instrumental work in creating the national park system in Chile. Carolina will brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table, and I'm sure her insights will offer us really valuable lessons in what we can do not only in Britain, but Europe and other places. Carolina has also been a close friend of Doug and Christine from the beginning. They really have done this together, so I'm sure we will really learn a lot from this talk. I've been personally very excited about this, so without further ado, please welcome Christina to the stage.
Oh, I have one. Yes. Setting up. Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much to Citizen Zoo for the invitation. We came all the way from Chile. We are the few ones who took over 20 hours to get here, but it's a real pleasure to meet all of you. Well, as Lucas was saying, I'm Carolina Morgado. I've been working with the Tompkins family for 30 years. And we focus our work in Patagonia, in Chilean Patagonia. Our vision from Tompkins Conservation to Rewilding Chile has been to focus our work in counteract the extinction crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and of course, the climate crisis. And how we have done this is through national parks. I'm going to be talking a lot about national parks, but I want to say that in a country like Chile, national parks represents the highest form of conservation. They have been our strategy to big-scale conservation, and because in Chile, national parks has been a Republican, a democratic tradition since 1926. Every president of Chile has made at least one national park, and so our work has always appealed to their legacy to look for this form of big-scale conservation. And our second strategy has been tourism, because we have been, as the human project expands and national parks are feel more and more pressure, we have looked for a strategy that puts an economic value to national parks. So we have developed a form, an idea, a territorial vision called the Route of Parks of Patagonia. And I will be talking about more than detail about how, what is the specific projects that we have done. I will be talking about how we have accomplished this work this past 30 years. Proxima. So who we are, this is Doug and Chris Tompkins, amazing philanthropists that come from North America, and they put all their wealth in an endowment fund, in a foundation, and we were so lucky in Chile that they decided to focus in Chile and Argentina. Our sister organization will be referring about the work in Argentina. I will be focusing in Chile, but we were so lucky that they decided to focus their work there. They have made along all of these years 15 national parks in both countries. But I just want to say that they are the biggest, probably the biggest donors of land to governments. They have made, at least in Chile, a donation of 520,000 hectares that had triggered 4 million hectares of protection of land. And also important to know that although they're very important figures and they are really our heroes in Chile, this work have also been held by many other philanthropists, many other organizations from here, from Europe and the United States. So it's the work. We are thank you to them, but also to an incredible network of partnerships. And yes, the Route of Parks of Chile and Patagonia. As I was telling you, we installed this vision in 2015. we decided it was so hard to still making national parks because the Chilean government, a country that has based its economy on extractive economy, on natural resources, they weren't really listening to us in terms of making national parks, as they were saying that we were taking too much land out of development. So that's when we came to this idea of this territorial vision of the route of parks of Patagonia, putting the tourism and economic component to making national parks. And this idea has grown and grown today. And in this territory of, this is Chilean Patagonia, and you can see the perspective there where this is located. Today, there are 17 national parks, of which 7 of them we have helped create, and we have expanded other 3, and we are in the process of creating a new one that this year will be signed the decree by the President of Chile. The important thing about the route of parks of Patagonia is that we put national park at the center of the work, and we think, like Alistair was explaining, our vision of national parks is core areas, is the canvas where we can paint, you know, a rewilding future. It's the space that we need for evolution to follow its processes, and it's where we do our rewilding work, either before we turn it into the park or when it's already a park. And of course, we promote here, because of the communities and because we want to reach beyond the conservation world, we promote tourism as a consequence of conservation. And in this route of parks in Chile, 91% of the hectares protected on national parks in Chile concentrates in this area. So it has an incredible biological value. Next. What have been the outcomes of Tompkins Conservation, our mother organization? We have helped create so far 7 national parks. We've expanded other 3. We have donated 120,000 hectares, and we have leveraged 3.5 million hectares. So really protecting 4 million hectares so far. And of course, in this area, we work with a series of keystone species, and we have a very strong work with communities to engage them into connecting with the natural world, to appreciate them, and to become the first line of defense of their territory. Next. I wanted to show you this map of Chile because you can see how Chilean Patagonia concentrates the majority of the land protected in Chile. And the reason for this is that the rest of Chile, you know, the central area of Chile is really focused on agriculture, and the north on mine. So we see an opportunity here for connecting land, for protecting big scale, but also to have like a climate corridor, a refugee for a species. And that's why we have concentrated in this part of Chile. Next. And today, you know, after in 2015, Douglas Tompkins died in an accident in Chile, Tompkins Conservation did a succession plan, because Chris Tompkins thought, you know what, if I disappear tomorrow, I want to create strong teams that they can make their own decisions, their own mistakes, and learn. And that's how Rewilding Chile and Rewilding Argentina were born after this period, and in 2021, we became independent. Now I want to show you a little video that explains this. No, sorry, I forgot one. And what we do, it's park creation, ecological restoration, rewilding in these areas, and the community outreach I was telling you about. Next.
You can only protect the things that you love if you identify with them.
We are Rewilding Chile, the legacy of Christine and Douglas Tompkins, who decided at the beginning of the 90s to dedicate their lives to conserving the beauty and biodiversity of the Chilean Patagonia. We work to face the species extinction and climate change crisis through rewilding as a comprehensive conservation strategy for the Chilean Patagonia by means of creating national parks.
if you just buy large tracts of land and you put a lock on the front door and it's regenerating itself, or it's staying within its pristine state, you're missing over half of the impact that you can have by getting people onto these landscapes and helping them identify with the non-human world, which is, of course, so tragic today, that there is this incredible chasm between human nature and the non-human world. So anyway, it's kind of how I see it.
We promote ecological restoration and the active management of threatened species, such as the Wemul deer, Darwin's rhea, puma, and condor. And we collaborate with the Chilean government to create marine and terrestrial conservation mirrors, key to the resilience of the planet. We work with the communities surrounding national parks because we know that the success of conservation depends on proud and empowered communities who may progress in harmony with nature, becoming defenders of their territory. We believe the world can be more wild, beautiful, and equitable. To achieve this, all of us are needed.
It looks like I'm finished, but I haven't finished. So now I'm going to talk about how we created Patagonia National Park. Of all of the parks we have created, they all take a different strategy. And in that sense, we have been a very flexible organization. We look at who is going to be the next president, what are their politics, and how we should approach them. In Chile, you know, because it's a very centralized and very presidential-oriented country, or it was until, you know, the past administration, always we appeal to the legacy I was saying, and that's how we make our strategy. And as I was saying before, our focus, and we decided that we want to bet on the public when it comes to conservation. We believe that conservation will last longer on the public hands, and that's why our decision has been, instead of creating private parks, bet on national parks, and because they're more democratic and they belong to all the people of the country where you're making them. As I said, each country has its own reality in terms of conservation, but that has been our bet in Chile. So creating a national park, it can seem, you know, I go to a president, I donate land, and that's it. But some of them, it has taken 20 years to create, and some of them it has taken 4 years to create. But every time a president is elected, which is every 4 years in Chile, we approach them with a new idea of conservation, be it to create a new national park, because it's our first form of rewilding. That's why we're called Rewilding Chile. Either to create a national park or either to expand national parks that have already been created, to give public access, or even to give continuity to the territory and to eliminate threats. So the first thing we have done along these years, all this map that I show you of the route of parks, we know that, you know, we have land people in charge, and we have mapped that territory, so we are very clear what are all the public lands available, what are the national parks, the national reserves, and what private lands are available, eventual purchases. So a very early stage of our work in Chile, 30 years back, we start mapping this territory, looking for the possibility of making all these national parks, because there were already 10 national parks when we arrived there, and how we could connect all of this territory to make this very big land for the planet. And we did it, you know, we did it by land, by sea, and also Douglas Tompkins was a great pilot, and we did a lot of flying and mapping to identify all of these opportunities. This is a map of before we created Patagonia National Park. We identified this ranch. It was a sheep estancia of about 70,000 hectares that was sitting between two national reserves. Heinimeni Reserve on the north, Tamango Reserve on the south. We looked at this estancia and it came up for sale, and we said this is a great opportunity to buy this sheep estancia, to restore it, to rewild it, and add it, and propose to the government that with the two adjacent national reserves, it could all become a national park. And after 40 to 20 years, we also identify all the public lands, so we have the estancia in the center that we're buying, the two national reserves adjacent that we propose to become a national park, and the public lands that also we could, with our donation, we could leverage to ask the government to also incorporate them to the future national park. And also what we see here, and why this territory is so important for us, because we know there is keystone species that are essential here. The Wemul deer. The Wemul deer is our national emblem. It's on the verge of extinction, and it's a species we have been working, and we have identified the 10 last spots where it still lives in Chilean Patagonia and a little bit on central Chile. And we have made a purpose to create a national Wemul corridor. So we identify that this is also a possibility to work with the Wemul deer. Also the Darwin's rhea, there's an almost local extinction. We buy this property and we find there is less than 10 species of Darwin's rhea here. So we see an opportunity also to work with them. And of course, there is the puma, the top predator, there's wildcats, condors, and the camelid, the guanaco, which is really essential to the grasslands landscape. And what is very important about Valle Chacabuco, this property, is it's a 70,000 property of grassland that is totally overgrazed after almost 100 years of grazing, of sheep grazing, and this is another species that live in this territory that makes us evaluate to buy this property and to turn it into national park. So to build this national park, first of all, we identify the 50,000 grassland, which is a total priority for the national park system of Chile to protect, and is totally underrepresented. Less than 9% of the grasslands have been protected in Chile, so this adds a lot to this purpose. This is how we bought the estancia in 2004. It had 25,000 sheep, and it had 5,000 cows. It was a factory for meat, for cheese, and also for cheese, and also for wool. But all of this, it's all red numbers in this business because of a long history of overgrazing, and they're totally ready to. So we start the work in 2004, and the first thing we do, of course, is evaluate the situation. Of course, is to offer everybody that works on the farm to join and reconvert themselves to rewilders. And except for one person, everybody joined and came to work with us because one person needed to retire anyway. We start working with an extensive group of volunteers supported by Patagonia Inc. They started to send groups of volunteers to Chile, but we also gave grants for Chileans, for Chilean schools, for central Chileans, because we really believe in volunteer work that is a very inspiring and maybe a turning point for some people in what they decide to do in their life. So with a group of volunteers, we dismantled 600 kilometers of fences. by dismantling, and all of this, of course, is progressive, you know. We start getting rid of the 25,000 sheep, also progressively, because you can't ruin the markets. You know, there's no market in any way to take them away in 1 year. So it took us about 4 to 5 years to totally sell the sheep. And also we work with volunteers in taking down the exotic species like rose hip cicuta, socratica, I don't know how to say it. So we start taking all this, and as we take down all the dismantled defenses, the guanacos who were really pushed in the high altitudes start coming back, and all this, you know, virtuous circle start happening, and the grasses start coming back to the Chacabuco Valley in the center of. And together with that, all of these projects has not been a walk in the park. They've been very, very controversial in Chile, especially, you know, in Patagonia, where the culture is the Patagonian culture, is totally related to the sheep farming. And I think it's a very emotional thing that happens, that when people see what their grandfather did, what their father did, you know, of sheep farming, converting the land into a national park, even if it's not your land, they feel very threatened about the disappearance of their culture. Therefore, we have to start working right away with the local people, and also in the wildlife programs, because we were dismantling fences, and because we were taking down the sheep, we wanted to monitor what was going to be the behavior of the puma. So we started right away a wildlife program on the Huemul deer, which were very cornered in the southern reserve. They were very cornered and threatened, so we started immediately a wildlife program to see the interaction between the huemul and the puma, the predator that now does not have sheep. And it was a very strong point to do this monitoring program, because also the local people thought that because we were taking down the sheep, our pumas were going to eat their sheep. So we collar 30 pumas, which we basically realize are the residents in the 30 pumas resident in the Chacabuco Valley, and start monitoring all of their behavior. And we did that, and we still do it, actually. We still work now that it's a national park. Together with that, and all of this I am saying, it's a process to 14 to 20 years until we really hand this park already in 2018 to the National Park Service. We start building the public infrastructure, because we know that a national park with no infrastructure does not bring the benefit of connecting with the people. And we need people to connect with them, to become their defenders, their protectors. They need to fall in love with their territory. So building, this is really high end, but building the public infrastructure had that purpose. And we did an incredible avant-garde information center, a lodge that first was the volunteer house, but then it became the lodge when we turned it into a national park, campsites, trails, and all of that. Of all the parks we have created in Chile, only 2 we have full developed, and we have turned them into, we have donated them after totally building them, you know, so we hand them like a complete national park. And why did we do that? Because we wanted to show the government that when you invest in a national park, they become engines to local economy. In Chile, the amount of the investment in national park is less than $2 per hectare, which is very, very low. And we are trying, to the root of park, through donating these incredible national parks to full functioning national parks, we want to show the government that national parks should be looked as an investment and not as an expense. Like, if you really, you know, promote what really is the call for the root of parks, and really is the call for Chile, which is a nature-based tourism, and instead of the incredible extractive economy, we continue to push forward. And of course, the socialization strategy is super important. We work with the adjacent town. I mean, we work at all levels, right? We work top down, and we work bottom up in the socialization strategy. We work with, as I say, with the volunteer, the job opportunities, but also with community outreach programs, with leadership programs, certifying a special, nature guides to these parks, handcrafts, everything that makes the people connect to this territory. And when it comes to stakeholders, you know, this is huge, and I'm not going to read them all, but what we do is, like, depending on the case, we go to the president, which is not this case. We go to all the ministries that had deal with this. We go to the local agencies that represent those ministries. We work with the city mayors. We work with the regional governments. We work with the NGOs, with the academy. That, you know, we have a lot of collaboration agreement with the academy, so everybody knows what's happening, and we always try to add up to the governmental plans too. When it comes to monitoring a species and all of that, we try to add up to their plan. So this is kind of like the stakeholders that we work. We have a political team, which I work with the conservation director, and we have a wildlife team, you know, and we're all working at the same time. And this, as I say, is 14 to 20 years that it took us to finish this park. And meanwhile, because of the controversy and because we want to change the minds, like Alistair was saying, we want people to think in national parks. I think we are probably one of the few organizations that totally focuses on this category, because in Chile they work. Never a national park has been delisted. So this is how we do it. And the political strategy continues. So this is kind of like a timeline. So we bought the property in 2004. But in 2011, we make the first proposal to make the national park. We proposed to make 5 national parks, and as I was telling before, President Piñera at that time said to us, thank you, but no thank you, you're taking too much land out of development. So we regrouped and we said, let's put an economic component, which is the route of parks of Patagonia, and we go back and offer it again. So we ended up creating only 1 national park with President Piñera, which is Yandegaya in the Beagle Channel. Impressive. No infrastructure, no access so far. Then in 2014, we went back and we made the presentation of the route of parks of Chilean Patagonia. We make an official launch, you know, always pushing for people to look at this territory in a different way, maybe in an economic way. We'll make them look at these parks and really protect them. And in 2017, finally, after Doug's death, we signed an MOU with the government where and I think it had a lot to do with Doug's death also, that they wanted to honor him, finally recognizing his vision. So we signed an MOU between the President of Chile, President Bachelet, and Christine Tompkins as the President of Tompkins Conservation. And there we start making the official signing of the park in 2018. The decree was signed along 5 other national parks. Some of them, we didn't even put land, but we just put them in the package because they deserve to be protected areas. So it was a really really good outcome. So how do we do the donation and the transition strategy? First of all of our donations when we make a national park are something that the law of Chile permits, which is making a model donation. That means that the land we are donating to make a national park can only remain as a national park. And if in any case, which has never happened in Chile, the park becomes delisted, they would have to return the land to the organization. So it's a very good condition that the Chilean law applies. And then we've also, because we don't want to donate and disappear, right? We have invested so much in this vision because we really care about this territory that we've signed long-term agreements. So at the time of the signing in 2018 of making this national park, we signed a 10-year long-term collaboration agreement that assures us a collaborative work with the park agency, with the government in the long term. And also, when we donate the park, we do it with the zoning, you know, unsolicited advice, but we do the zoning in the whole proposed park, although they probably will only consider sometimes only the land we are donating. And also, we participated, in the case of Patagonia National Park, in all the touristic concession, bringing experts to Chile how to make better tourism concessions, how to also install in the mind of the Chilean Park Agency also what, following a lot of the idea of South Africa, conservation tourism, agencies, like companies that they just don't want to run a hotel. They have to get involved in the protection of the park. So we also signed a collaboration agreement with the company that got the concession of the hotel, and we work together to help this park, because there is a huge cultural gap in Chile in terms of financing and in terms of understanding environmental philanthropy and caring for the environment, and therefore we have to be there. I don't think there is a country really that can that where the civil society is not involved in their protection of their patrimony. We all need to be involved. It's never going to be just the government. And also to secure the legacy. So in the case of Patagonia National Park, we still run inside of the national park the wildlife programs. We do it along with the Wildlife Service of Chile and the National Park Agency. We have a puma monitoring program, Guanaco, the camelid, a condor program. We release condors in Patagonia National Park each year, condors that they come from a rehab center. We have the Darwin's Rhea Reintroduction Center. We bought the property with less than 10 rheas, and today there's over 100 rheas roaming free. We can't say that it's a victory still, because we need more distribution in the territory. We have a small cats program. There's very little information. We work with the community. We form in the adjacent communities. We work on this program, which is called Friends of Parks. We want people to get through environmental education, visiting the park, exchanging experiences, that they become friends of this park, and they get involved in the decision making of the park, because the Chilean law allows for that, and that is happening. And that is happening also. We do, as I said, our big vision of the route of parks that runs parallel with our conservation work, but we keep pushing it, and today it's a governmental program, the route of parks. It's a 10-year program to Chile to install this vision, which is an incredible success, because politics cares about numbers, and if these parks are making a better economy for Chile, they will succeed. Of course, we focus also in local development, but especially in the communities, in activities that will allow or will trigger that young people want to stay there, and they don't just live for the cities because there's no opportunities. So we work with handcrafts, and we work, as I was saying, with local guides, which has been very successful. And also, we continue to buy, because when you buy these parks, sometimes they're not totally complete. And every space, every property that sits in between, it's a source of threat, because they continue to be, sheep farming there, and and domestic animals have been
Livestock.
Huh? Yeah, the livestock in general has a disease that's a bit transmitted to the Huemul deer, so we try to take that out. There's also, they bring dogs, and the dogs are not well taken care of, that they kill wildlife. So far we have still bought another, 1,800 hectares that we will donate. Every time you donate, they have to open the decree, so we take one battle of the time when we will donate the land. And as I was saying just now, we are pushing very hard, and we have a small team pushing this now a national program, macro-regional public program for the route of parks, which is, as I say, this 10-year program that will put Chile as a conservation destination. And we need that to happen, because that vision is competing with mining, salmon farming, other forms of extractive and very contaminating economy. And also, we are now we are working on a legacy fund to to work with our partners that have been helping to create this vision for years and years, and to have a kind of like a quasi-endowment fund that triggers also funds from the government, and that together. Meanwhile, we wait for this cultural gap to get smaller, we can help aid these national parks to be these beacons of how a national park should look like and should function like in a country like Chile. So that's Patagonia National Park. And I want to show you now a very brief example of a park we are creating just now. We are now creating, and we will be signing in October of this year, the creation of Cape Froward National Park. It's on the Strait of Magellan, subantarctic forest, an amazing really territory. It seems really, you know, remote, and it is remote. But as you know, we are more and more humans in this planet. None of these remote areas are really safe anymore, so we need to protect them. So here is different. In this case, we went to the president of Chile, but this is we have a 37-year-old president now. So he doesn't want to do the top-down thing, you know, it's a different vision. So what we do is the first year of his presidency, we go to all his ministry, to all the people he worked there, and we tell them idea. And when everybody knows the idea, we go to the president. And then the president already has heard about this, you know, you use a different political strategy according to me. And how this idea happened, this property on the Bruce Willis Peninsula was offered to us, 93,000 hectares. We bought it with a pool of 9 donors from United States and Europe. Also, of course, Tompkins Conservation is involved. This is going to be the first national park that it will be created as Rewilding Chile, which is also super important for our organization. But of course, we do it with Chris. Chris is the president of our board. We do it with Tompkins Conservation. So we bought this property. We had the opportunity to buy the second property, and also when we went to the president, we realized there are 2 national protected areas, the ones in yellow, Cape Froward protected area and Rio Bachelor, and we asked this president, what if we donate the lands in the middle and we put the 2 protected areas and we form an about 200,000 hectare national park on the Strait of Magellan. We went also for a marine park, but, and at the beginning, presidency said yes, but they had such a big pressure from the fishing industry and the salmon industry that they don't want to see it, that the government said to us that they can't afford to do it right now. So we're only going for the terrestrial park. We are still waiting to buy a stage 3. It's not available right now. That's why we have not bought it. But we are doing a series of you know, a different strategy because we're going to be donating the park, and then we're going to be helping to do the public infrastructure. But we continue to do many activities. The most important about this park is really, it sums up in an 8 million corridor of national parks. A few of those we have created, a few of them have been there before we started making national park in this area. Next. And what are the most important conservation, from the conservation point of view of this territory? We are working with the red-headed goose, which is, ¿lo dije bien? Rudy-headed, yeah, Marcela knows better. We're working, it's on the verge of extinction, so we are working with it. It's adjacent to this park we are creating, subantarctic forest. We are already starting to work on a tree nursery to reforest some patches of this park that have been, because of boats docking, they are taking lumber for different activities. So we are already doing a tree nursery with the National Park Service, always with the public, to reforest these patches that have been identified. And of course, this is the last tip of South America, continental South America, this property. And the Huemul deer, we knew it lived there. Nobody had seen it. We did environmental DNA. We put camera traps. It didn't show up in anything, but one day we're walking on the beach and they're there. So that tells you that everything is needed, not one thing is the solution. So we have seen it. And we do, of course, as I was telling you, we met with the president. Ingrid is there, she's the oh, qué rápido es. That's the president, the subsecretary of environment, Chris I, and Ingrid, she's been She's been with the project for 22 years also. All the core group of Tompkins Conservation, it's Rewilding Chile today. So that's very important for following up the work, and she's the conservation director today. We do all the political work together. That's when we met with the president, he signed up. So basically the timeline with this park, in 2021 we bought the first property, we started the socialization strategy we do a map of all the actors, locally, nationally, the whole thing. In 2023 we proposed to the government administration in 2024, because it takes well, we signed the protocol of agreement, kind of like an MOU with the government, right, for the land donation, and that's when we started the land donation process. The two lands that we bought have already been donated. They're already in the Ministry of Public Lands, that's all taken care of, and this is always what we demand when we create a national park, an intersectorial table, a table where all the ministries that are involved in the creation of national park are represented, and a representative from presidency. So since we start working, that's our ask, because we know that that's how it works. You know, that's how you get things done and you move forward. We have periodical meetings, say once a month. And so we signed that. We're starting the model donation, and once, because we already submitted 2 properties, and we are in the process of working out the long-term collaboration agreement that will allow us to have, you know, the possibility to work in the park after we donate it, which is going to be this year. ¿Y después qué viene? So things we have done to build this park: we consolidated a team in the Magellan region, in the Strait of Magellan area. We are following up already wildlife programs with the huemuls and also with the ruddy-headed goose. We are doing the forest restoration, tree nursery, etc. We are finishing up the public infrastructure master plan now. And we have done also, this is indigenous territory. All of what Cape Froward will be is the Kaweskar indigenous ancestral, because there was big extermination in this part of the world. So this is ancestral territory, but with a group of anthropologists from the Kaweskar community, we did a biocultural study that helped us identify all the sacred places, all the meaningful places that they have inhabited ancestrally, and that is going to be incorporated in the zoning that we will be part of the creation of the national park with this donation. So, but you know, this work goes on forever. In the route of Parcos Patagonia, we have identified 4.8 million hectares of land and sea that needs to be protected. Less than 1% of the coastal waters of Patagonia are protected, and that's where the productivity is, but also that's where the threats are, that's where the salmon farming is, and you know, Chile is big on industrial fishing also. So we see that, we have that mapped out, and we already working on a plan for the next government. We have elections in November, so from November on, we focus on the next presidency and we figured out what we can propose. But we're also expanding beyond the route of parks. We are doing a big rewilding project in a collaboration with many organizations in central Chile, where the Guanaco camelid is totally extinct, on a local extinction. So we are working with them, and you know, and with the condors way beyond, and with Darwin's rhea also. It's not Darwin's rhea, but another kind of rhea in Peru. And of course, we continue to engage with local community with the route of parks of territorial vision. And after I finish this, I want to show you a video that it's very focused on the route of parks and how we have, I think this was Doug's last best idea in 2015. He proposed this idea in a World Conference of Adventure Travel Tourism called the Route of Parks of Patagonia. We made this video that even the Chilean authorities are using when they go to conferences, because this is a way to promote, to put an economic value to conservation through nature-based tourism. So I want to leave you with this video, and I finish my presentation.
Route of Parks of Chilean Patagonia. 17 national parks, more than 1,700 miles of scenic beauty, shelter for species in danger of extinction, and home to more than 60 communities rich in culture and tradition. The route of parks of Chilean Patagonia spans a third of Chile and 3 regions. From Puerto Montt to Cape Horn, the Lake District, Aysén, and Magallanes. It unites the iconic routes of the Carretera Austral, the Patagonian channels, and the route to the end of the world. The route of parks of Chilean Patagonia is an opportunity for local economic development driven by nature-based tourism, a result of large-scale wildlands and wildlife conservation. It protects more than 29 million acres as national parklands. It is a nature-based solution to reverse the dual climate and extinction crisis. Its north and south ice fields is the 3rd largest freshwater reserve in the world. The route of parks of Chilean Patagonia is a green lung for the planet. One of the most powerful carbon reservoirs in South America, storing almost 3 times more carbon per hectare than the Amazon. The most beautiful scenic route in the world has been created, and it is in Chile. Travel, discover, and protect it. Route of Parks of Patagonia, protected heritage of all Chileans.
Listo.
That's really good. Trying not to get emotional when I watch this video.
Do I go sit?
No, you stay because we need to ask questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolina, for that amazing presentation.